Hello and welcome to another weekly update. Not quite the last one before Christmas, but we're getting close, middle of December, so it's interesting to see the kind of news cycle because it does tend to tail off again. Obviously towards Christmas, everybody takes their holidays, their vacations, so the pace does kind of slow off a little bit. And often as well, you see code freezes into the Christmas period as well. And that tends to slow down new releases of changes and things like that. But there are some things happening. Three things I want to bring to your attention this week. Not so much new things, but just more information about certain things, a bit more detail you can dig into. Maybe some good long reads as well as you're going into that kind of Christmas period. If you want an escape from spending time with family, then here are three things that you could consider. So first of all, a blog post by Chris Barden about the latest changes to the Microsoft bot framework. Now, so Chris is a really good developer. Often blogs, blogged all the way back into I remember the kind of the link and the Skype days. Chris's blogs, and you could always rely on Chris for a really detailed dive into fully understanding something and putting it down onto paper. And that's no different here. He's put together a blog post about his kind of experiences in doing that migration from some of the beta pre-release stuff that's been happening in the bot framework world leading up to 4.6. Because the bot framework team, to their credit, have been very open and very frequent in some of the pre-release versions leading up to 4.6, and people have been using those and writing code against them and trying things. But now that 4.6 is out, this is a good thing, as Chris says in his first paragraph. This is good because everything gets simpler now because there's the one version to get behind. But also there's a couple of changes in making your code update to 4.6 if you've been on some of the pre-release versions kind of leading up. So Chris goes through, and I love these blog posts because he puts out the actual error he was getting and why he got it and what he did to fix it, and that is so useful for people who do that same journey, because hopefully his errors, they'll show up in kind of searches and web searches and stuff as well, so more and more people will land on them, and then you've got Chris's advice on what he did to kind of get around that problem. There's code samples there's code snippets in here, and there's also good explanation as well. There's not loads and loads of errors, just a couple of things that that Chris found blocked him on that upgrade journey, and it's so useful to have that stuff written down. So massive thanks to Chris for doing that. It's really good. It's always good. Everybody should do this whenever they hit a problem. You should write it down, because 9 times out of 10 it's reference material you come back to yourself because you've forgotten. That's certainly my experience. But you're also helping somebody else, future someone who may have the same error that you have just found, that you can help unblock them. So that's really good. All right, so let's cross over to another blog post, and this one by Starley Hansen, MVP in the Nordics, and also runs Cloudway, which is a kind of it's a really good company actually. I think I want to say it's made up entirely of MVP, so it certainly used to be the case. I'm pretty sure it still is the case. Very interesting company. Anyway, he's put together a blog post about really how do you stay up to date with Microsoft 365 today. Like, there's so many different points of information. Obviously, this weekly update is an excellent resource. But actually, no, really, like what do you do? Because there's a couple of different announcement streams, RSS feeds that Microsoft have. There's the kind of the tenant-wise organization thing. There's also the roadmap. So there's a couple of different things. So what Starley's put together is kind of a cool process of using Microsoft Teams to stay up to date. So he goes through some scripts that he has, and they're not just all ones that he's written. He's taken them from some other people as well. But he goes through exactly how you take them, and he's modified them as well into a script that also creates teams and channels for you. And basically, you can run this whole script that he's put together on this web page, and you'll end up with a team in your Microsoft Teams tenant, and some channels and some webhooks automatically posting new information about features as they come into the roadmap into Microsoft Teams. So that's a really good resource if you're an administrator or even a developer. You just want to keep on top of the things that are happening with Teams. You can absolutely do that. I haven't double checked, and I should probably do a blog post about this. This would be an excellent thing you could pair with the RSS things that I did for the public roadmap. Very specific RSS feed information as well. So that's kind of interesting as well. So I might do something about that, like a blog post or something about that, to see if I can put those things together. Anyway, I thought that was good. I thought it was very interesting. I'm going to look into doing this myself because I think it's a useful idea. So yeah, I'm impressed by that. So that's something you could set up over the Christmas holidays. You could set this up in your tenant, and then going into 2020, you've got one place, you've got a channel in Teams where all the announcements, all the information that you need to act on and just review will all be coming into Teams in one place. So that seems like a really smart move. And finally, a bit of a long read for you over the Christmas period in the form of a blog post by Mary Jo Foley at allaboutmicrosoft.com. And she did an interview with the Microsoft Azure Executive Vice President, the EVP, Jason Zander, really kind of looking at his world, his perspective, how the things he cares about, the things he worries about now. There's been some changes. His world now includes Windows engineering, which is kind of interesting because he's the Azure EVP. So that is an interesting take for Azure plus Windows. It's interesting. But actually, Jason's role covers Azure strategy, it covers engineering, it covers ops, it covers the cloud products, it covers SQL Server, big data, quantum computing. It's a big remit, and so it's interesting to see kind of what he's thinking, where he thinks things are going, and what the future looks like. So it's a really good blog post interview, so you should sit down and read that. It's not super long. It's interesting to see kind of his perspective around things as well. So that's a blog post read you can have over Christmas. So 3 interesting things this week. Like I say, no real news announcements, but digging into some things we already know, some things you can do over the Christmas break to kind of prepare for 2020, and a good long form read as well for when you've had enough Christmas music. All right, that's everything from me. There will be another update next week, which will be the last one before Christmas. In the meantime, you can keep up with me on Twitter. And I'm just going to say have a great rest of weekend, and I will see you all again next time.